Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Chad here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today we've got a little bit of an offshoot video here. Maybe you guys will enjoy this parallel universe. It's still somewhat gun related, kind of manhood related. We're going to take a look at a bunch of vintage Coleman lanterns. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Eric, this isn't gun related. Come on, man, what's going on? Well, I went over to Chad's house recently to visit, and turns out he's actually been collecting a lot of these oddball, old school Coleman lanterns. And he actually has quite a few of them, you know, way more. We're going to show you a bunch here. So we thought, hey, man, might be kind of cool to make a video just showing off all of these interesting old school lanterns, you know. They're useful because they're still functional.
Yep.
Parts are still available for just about all of these. They can all be rebuilt and refurbished to be brought back into functional use, even if they, you know, are messed up or, you know, non-functioning. There is sort of, I guess, a prepper element to having lanterns. You know, batteries are great, and having flashlights is a nice handy thing, but there's nothing like a good old school lantern, you know, to make sure you got a way to light the path, right? So we're going to go over a couple of them. Chad's going to do most of the talking here because this is more of his area of expertise, but I will probably have some questions. So, you know, I know you got a military lantern here. That's cool.
If you want to call it expertise. I don't know, I got interested in them recently, and I kind of went down that path. It's kind of like buying your first suppressor and then you just keep buying them, or buying your first 22 and you just want more. They are very useful, like Eric said, and my big mindset was I didn't even have a lantern at the house. If the power went out, we had flashlights and candles and stuff. I'm like, you know, I need a good lantern, and I found one locally for real cheap, and then
like $5.
I got the bug. And I think I've pretty much scoured every antique store and every ad on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace in my local area. I think I've probably like worn them dry. But this one here in the middle is a military lantern. I think this one was SMP produced. Yeah, this one was made by SMP. So the U.S. government had a contract on these lanterns back in the day. They've produced them ever since the 50s on up to the early 90s, mid-90s perhaps, and several different manufacturers produced them, just like any other military contract for an item such as this. But these are really cool because they're a single mantle, they're kind of a 220 size, you know, lantern here. They have an attached chain for the fuel cap. They have a little funnel that's attached on there so you don't lose it. And then you've got your pump assembly over here, and then you have a little compartment in the front, which is pretty cool for storing some tooling, you know, to remove the generator assembly. You usually have some spare lanterns or spare mantles in here, a couple of spare parts, some spare seals and things. Just a really handy and kind of a prepper and, you know, prepper-oriented type device. These will burn multiple types of fuel. You can burn the white gas Coleman fuel like this here, which is like 50 octane gasoline, which you can find this stuff everywhere from Walmart, sporting goods stores. You can put unleaded gas in there. Some of the 50s lanterns, they were made for leaded gasoline, which was available at the time. It will gum the lantern up, you know, quicker than by using the Coleman gas, but they're just cool. It's a big nostalgia thing for me too, because I remember going, you know, camping and stuff and using old Coleman lanterns that my dad had, and every time the power would go out, we'd open some windows, put a lantern in the house, you know, and light it up, and, you know, just a handy thing. And
there's certainly an Americana associated with it. You know, they are cool.
It's ridiculous that there is an entire just like kind of a cottage industry almost around like Coleman lantern collecting. There's multiple forums out there, books that are published on collecting lanterns and old oil lamps and other sort of non-electric, you know, lighting appliances. But the military lanterns are cool, and man, some of these things, like some of the Swiss radius lanterns and stuff, they can get stupid astronomically priced.
So how exactly does one light one of these up?
Well, this one here, you want me to light one right now?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to light one up.
We're going to light one up.
So, these are a little bit more finicky. You want to light the mil-spec? We'll light the mil-spec. These are low pressure lanterns, so they require very little pressure in order to get them going.
All right, so you got to pump it.
Yep, so it's got a little internalized pump, and about 10 pumps is enough for this thing. And then you've got a fuel valve over here. And then on the commercial lanterns, you have what's called a pricker, which is this little guy right here. And oddly enough, the tube inside here where the gas travels up and it turns into a vapor is called a generator. So on the mil-spec lantern here, the tube is aluminum, and it's kind of a little curved generator tube, and then it goes into the mixing chamber up top. So the way the lanterns work is they pull fuel up out of the fount down here, and it's a mixture of gas and air to begin with until you fully open the valve. But then you get air mixed in from these tubes right here on the side. So these are air tubes. They come up here, mixes with the fuel, and then it lights the mantle, which is basically just it's a cloth sack that's coated with, well, it used to be thorium, so it was mildly radioactive material. Now it's iridium.
Oh, great.
You know, so they coat them with this kind of ceramic, rare earth material, and when you flare or you fire them at first, it kind of burns all the cloth material off and leaves the web there, and that material incandesces at high heat, so that, you know, gives you the light, just like a filament in a light bulb. So we've got our fount pumped up here, and we're going to find our lighting hole, which is right here. And I'm just going to put a little torch.
Is this going to explode in my face?
No, but it might flare up a little bit because these are a little more finicky. They don't have the burner screens and stuff like the more popular, you know, lanterns do. So just give it a little bit of fuel, and once it mixes in there enough, it should fire up.
Is this thing going to explode in Nate?
I said they're a little finicky.
Said every redneck before he just, you know, did his. Whoa! Whoa! Cool!
Alright, so these take a minute just to kind of get going, so. But, the military ones are really cool. Once they get going, they're pretty good, but it's alright. Not gonna hurt nothing. Lighting a lantern inside the house? Oh my! Y'all are gonna die of carbon monoxide poisoning. So right now the generator tube is getting a little bit warm and the fuel is kind of getting its flow going on. So it'll start up.
That sucker's bright.
It's really bright. These are, I think, a couple hundred, maybe 250 candle power. I can't remember the specs on these. So now the mantle is glowing. So you should be able to open the fuel valve all the way. Like that, and then give it just a few more pumps. Ginger pumps. Ooh, yeah. Like I said, these things are finicky. They're low pressure.
It is military, so.
It is. But once these things get warmed up, they are loud. But that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the mil-spec lantern. So these are fairly common, these Colemans and the SMPs and stuff. And like I said, the more desirable ones are the older models from the 50s and 60s. Just from a collection standpoint. So yeah, the glass is going to be real hot and the vent's going to be real hot where all that, you know, heat's coming out. But you know, they're just neat. And I like the military spec ones because, you know, we collect military surplus rifles and stuff. And, you know, what's a collection of cool firearms and old school wood and metal guns without some of the other implements that go along with being a soldier, you know? I mean, just neat stuff.
Agreed.
But I don't really use the mil-spec ones at the house or anything too much. Now, like, my kids and stuff will be outside playing in the evening, and the sun will start going down and all, and instead of turning on the outside lamp on the outside of the house there, I'll just pull out a couple of Coleman lanterns and light them up, and I'll put them on the driveway, and they can still ride their bikes and stuff on the driveway and play in the yard or whatever. We'll look for bats. And
so once you kill the fuel to this thing, it's just going to eventually burn off what's left.
The gas that's remaining, the fuel that's remaining in the generator and all, and in the system will just pretty much burn off, and then it'll start to kind of sputter, and it'll just eventually go out. Yeah. So, but the more common, modern Colemans, or I guess consumer Colemans, would be like the 200s, which this is a red one here. This is the most common 200 that you're going to see. This is the 200A. And then the green ones are a little less common. These were made just for a few years in the early 80s before they ceased production of them. But if you look hard enough, you can find these for relatively cheap. I mean, this one I bought at a little antique store right down the road from me for $15.
All right, so she's going out.
Yeah, she's going out.
Boom!
Boom! And in other news, 2 YouTube stars blown to smithereens when a
Military lantern
Exploded
failed.
in their face.
In typical military fashion, the lantern failed. Neat. So let's look at some more lanterns.
Right.
I know you've got these three, but we've actually got a lot of lanterns to show you here.
All right. So yeah, that thing will just go out.
Almost there. You almost got it, little fella.
All right.
What is this?
All right. So. All right. Before you open this, all right. So a little story. All right. I was looking at eBay. I'm like, all right. I just want a 60s era 220. If you go on eBay and you look for Coleman 220s, they're probably the most iconic Coleman lantern. It's the big double mantle lantern. Just, they made tons of them. Tons of them. Like, I think they started production back in the late 20s on that particular model, and it ceased in June of 1983. So I found this on eBay. Buy it now for $40.
Heck, the box is worth that.
Somebody made this box to house a lantern and then a jug of fuel, and then it came with like a little baggie here with some old silk light mantles. These are new old stock silk light mantles, and then it came with a fuel filter, old school fuel filter.
Look at that.
And I just thought it was the neatest dang thing. I mean, and if you look at the prices of the newer lanterns, I mean, you go to Walmart and you buy a new like dual fuel or whatever, like a 285 or something, they're $80 for a new lantern, you know, and they just don't have the charm of the old school stuff, you know. But you have the 220, like this one here. The lantern Eric has is the same idea. It's a double mantle, but it has what's called a big hat. So these are meant more for like hanging above like a picnic area or something, or hanging in your shop. And it has a white paint or white porcelain on the underside of the vent hood, and it directs the light down, kind of like a, you know, overhead light.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so pretty neat stuff. But man, the box, like Eric said, the box is worth $30 or $40, you know.
What a cool unit.
So,
man.
and these are not only collectible but also useful. And some of these came in, you know, a little bit more disrepair than others, but you know, with our knowledge of cleaning firearms and restoring gun parts and things like that, it's not hard just to break these things down with some, you know, common tools and just put a few parts in the ultrasonic and then polish a few other parts that are needed and get them back and running, you know. So this is one of my favorites. All right, so this is more indicative of what you'd see in some of the military spec lanterns from you know, Sweden and Germany and such, and from back in the day. But this is a Ada Express. It's old German-produced kerosene lantern, and this has a little reflector on the back of it, so it will direct the light in whichever direction that you want to place it there. But they also have these really cool hoods. I love these things. So the hood probably won't fit on there with this little guy on, but some of the Swedish like radiuses and stuff you find have these big hoods on there, big hats, and they're just so cool. So check this out. Talk about a freaking reflector, man. Look at this. Boom! Well, let's see. Let's do this here. Put that through. Like such. Bloop.
That is so cool, man.
It is the neatest thing, but these are really cool to me. I saw them in a book that I have. I bought a couple of books by Ron Brown, and it talks about gas lanterns, kerosene lanterns, all kinds of stuff. And I saw these in there, and this is a 1961 Ada Express 1500. It's a 500 candle power lantern. So this sucker is bright with just one single mantle, but it has this torch on the side of it right here, and it's called a rapid preheater. And we can pump it up and get it going here if you want to, but
yeah,
this thing is loud when it gets going. But it'll preheat the generator. With kerosene lanterns, they have to be preheated because there's a lot of debate about gas versus kerosene and stuff, you know.
Oh yeah.
So I hope I'm not boring the heck out of you guys.
Is this not like, is this FUD territory?
Well, maybe FUD territory, but I don't know. Maybe. This isn't. A FUD, I don't think a FUD would want a German lantern and be like, I'll get that thing out of here, give me my Coleman.
That thing is in clean shape, man.
For 1960s era, it's real clean.
In great shape.
I didn't have to do a lot to it. I just polished it up a little bit, pulled it apart, just checked a few of the parts and stuff. And the cool thing, like with these, is the glass is Duran glass or whatever, but it's marked made in West Germany, which I just thought was so cool. And it's got the little stag on there, like a reindeer. I'm not sure what that logo is, but original Ada special, and it's a shot glass. So shot, they make all kinds of optical glass for many different industries and stuff. They make glass for many different industries as well, but this one is a little bit finicky. So it's got a little pressure gauge on the fuel filler port right there. So, and make sure that little guy's tight, and then you pump it up until this little guy gets to 1.5 bar. Stay tuned!
I want to pump you up.
I think it needs a new pump leather.
You think?
Let's go.
Keep pumping.
Keep pumping.
Gosh, how many times you gotta pump the dang thing?
Enough. All right. Whew. All right. Boy, I need a beer. All right. So look, I want you to hold this lighter right there.
Right there.
Right there. So we're gonna light this up. Ready?
Yeah.
Turn on. Turn on!
What the heck?
Let's see. 90 seconds. Oh, the glorious carbon monoxide.
What? Those crazy Germans. Over-engineered.
No, it's not going to blow up. So it's going to preheat the generator because kerosene has a much higher flash point than Coleman fuel or gasoline does. So you got to get the generator too hot before the gas will, or the fuel itself will turn from a liquid into a gas and light the mantle properly. So you got to go for like 90 seconds.
Oh, it's getting hot. Look at that. It's starting to get light.
Not quite there yet. Don't touch that, it's really hot. Ask me how I know. Weird hobbies. All right. All right. Close that.
Close this.
Close that.
Is it hot?
Yeah, it's not hot. There you go. Sucker's bright. There it is.
That's cool, man.
Gun gripes by lamplight.
I wonder if the camera will pick up with the lights off. Wow, it's lighting up the entire room. Oddly enough. Very cool. The more you know.
More you know, indeed.
It's not that loud.
No, these are pretty quiet.
Oh.
So then we're just going to power it down. And these are a little bit finicky because they don't have an actual like on-off valve or anything. You're basically taking this knob over here, and there's a rod that goes all the way to the top where the gas jets out of the generator, and it's got a little pricker wire up there, and it just basically clogs the hole and keeps the gas from coming through. So it'll power down and cool off in a minute. We'll let the pressure out of it.
Huh. I'll be. Interesting.
And then there's one more.
One more lantern.
One more Coleman. This is my favorite. We're not gonna light this one because I don't have my alcohol bottle with me. I forgot it at the house. But this is a 639. So these are pretty well known for being like a real universal lantern as far as fuel goes. You're supposed to be able to burn kerosene in it, which is what is native for this particular model. White gas, unleaded fuel, diesel fuel, all by just changing the mantle. I have not tried that yet, but one of my books says it's possible. So we might test it in.
I love the chrome too. Like, that's so neat.
Man.
You know, it's not like there's just red or green. You know, it's chrome and green. I think that's a really cool looking lantern.
It's just real classy looking, and this is a Canadian produced. So this is made in by Coleman, Canada.
Cool, man.
But
thing looks great.
550 candle power. Sucker is bright, like that Petromax.
And what do these sell for in the used market?
These are around maybe the $100 mark. Sometimes you can find them cheaper. Sometimes they're a little more expensive.
So for reference, what does a new lantern cost?
Well, let's see. The most expensive new one that Coleman makes is the North Star, which is about as bright as this, I think, if not maybe a little bit brighter. And they have an electric ignition on them, so you don't have to have matches or anything. And those are like $130, $140.
New.
Yeah. Most of your normal dual fuels, like I said, they're about $80, give or take, for new ones. But there's just a certain charm in the old school Colemans. And like I said, there's this whole just collector's, this whole like collector's aura, I guess, about it, whatever you want to call it. Just around Coleman gear. I mean, people will collect coolers. They'll collect all kinds of old camping gear and stuff, stoves. I actually have a couple of the stoves too, and you know, they're just handy to have. If you ever have a power outage or something and you don't have like a gas stove that you can just light with a match, you can still run your gas stove and light it with a match. Well, if you've got an electric stove and stuff and you don't have any way to cook, instead of making a campfire, you can just fill up your Coleman stove, light it up, and then you got a way to cook, boil water. You know, so definitely has survivalist aspects to it, and just everyday preparedness. Because if you live in a hurricane-prone area or something like that, prone to bad weather, you might be without power for several days. Well, if you got a little bit of a stock of fuel and lanterns and stoves and spare parts and mantles, you can keep your house lit, keep your outside lit for several days, if not weeks, months, if you had to.
I think that there's also a big like Americana factor to it. You know?
Absolutely.
People really associate these old lanterns with like their grandparents or even their great-grandparents, or you know, the stories that come along with it. You know, people remember what they were doing next to Grandpa's old lantern at the campsite back in the day, and you know, either it got lost or broken or something happened, and a lot of collectors want to replace the old school stuff that they had in their family. And I can definitely see the collector's aura that would be kind of revolving around something like the old Colemans and stuff. And you know, Coleman as a brand really has, you know, built an entire brand on Americana, and they've succeeded at that. So
they're a very well-known company and very successful company, you know, and they still put out a lot of quality products, you know, even to this day. But they've been long-standing in the you know, outdoor camping gear and stuff market for a long time. And I don't know, like I said, to me, it's just the nostalgia of it. And I just call me old school or whatever. But like I said, instead of turning on the lamp outside, I'll take the time to light the lantern. And you know, my kids like to light them. Yeah, my daughter wants to, you know, strike the match or whatever, or you know, light it up and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to teach my son how to do it by himself, which is a little bit of a challenge. But we go camping and stuff quite a bit, and it's just cool. I don't like battery or solar powered stuff. It's handy, but there's just something to be said about
There is something about the old school nostalgia of a good old fashioned lantern. So maybe in a future video, we'll take out some military lanterns as well. Like, I know we had the one military model there, but maybe we'll do an entire episode just on military lanterns if that's something you guys are interested in.
Get your pocketbook out, boy.
Well, we might be able to find some collectors that will be willing to donate a few for the video. Not for to keep, but just for us to show you guys. Maybe we can borrow a few.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you very much for watching today's video. We hope you enjoyed it. This is just scratching the surface of some of the great lanterns that we have access to. You know, maybe you'll see a video on some more stuff. So let us know if you like this video. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you're going to go buy a lantern now. Thank you very much for the support, guys. We appreciate all of our folks who support us on Patreon, as well as purchasing man cans, shirts, and merch over on the website, over on Ballistic Ink. Thank you guys very much for supporting us. and watching the channel. So many more videos on the way. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.